What if everything you perceive around you isn't real in the way you imagine? This question invites us to ponder the very nature of existence, urging us to consider whether reality is an objective truth or a subjective experience shaped by our minds. What if instead, reality is just a projection and illusion shaped by your own mind? Imagine for a moment that the world we live in is like a hologram, something that isn't fixed or unchangeable but a constant energetic movement, interconnected with us in ways we can't see but can feel. This idea, far from being just a concept, is beginning to gain visibility in modern science. Reality as we know it may be a dynamic, energetic projection formed and modified by the frequencies that our mind emits. For instance, recent studies in neuroscience suggest that even small changes in thought patterns can influence measurable energy fields around the brain. Every thought, every emotion is like a wave spreading across the universe, creating and altering the landscape of our perception. But how can we claim this? What is known about the interaction between the mind and the universe is vast but also surrounded by mystery. Perhaps the greatest clue that this idea isn't just an abstract theory lies in a study conducted by the CIA, the Gateway Process. A secret project that has now been declassified explores precisely the relationship between human consciousness and realities beyond ordinary perception. The scientists involved weren't just exploring altered states of consciousness. They were investigating how the human mind can access and even shape the reality around it. The study, as mysterious as it may seem, directly connects with ancient spiritual traditions and the latest discoveries in physics. The theory of the universal hologram, for example, is already an idea present in quantum theories, where the universe is seen as a vast interconnected field of energy. The human mind, then, is not just a passive receiver, but an active projector, interacting with the universal hologram and shaping the reality we experience. Today will be a journey to understand how the human mind and the universe can, in fact, function as interconnected holograms and how the CIA study offers valuable insight into this. We will explore the secrets connecting consciousness to the universe, revealing how we can alter our perception of the world. For a long time, the human mind was seen as just an observer of reality. However, a declassified CIA document known as the Gateway Process challenges this view by revealing that our consciousness has the power to access deeper layers of reality, interacting with the universe in ways that traditional science has never dared to imagine. Carried out in a highly secret research context, this study not only investigates the nature of consciousness, but suggests that the mind not only perceives the world but has the ability to shape it, distorting the very perception of what we consider real. For example, participants reported vividly altered perceptions of physical objects during guided sessions, such as perceiving a simple chair as a vibrant, multidimensional energy form, illustrating how consciousness reshapes ordinary experiences. During the Gateway Process investigations, the CIA employed a very specific approach to studying altered states of consciousness. The goal was not only to understand how the human brain works, but how it can interact with more subtle dimensions of reality. Through techniques like deep meditation, hemisphere synchronization, and other mental expansion practices, the participants in this study were able to access states of consciousness that allowed them to visualize and interact with layers of reality beyond normal perception. These practices, far from being simple spiritual experiments, were seen as ways to shape and alter the human experience of the universe. Unlike traditional scientific methods that rely on external measurements and observations, these techniques focus on internal states and subjective experiences to uncover truths about reality. But the CIA study goes beyond the simple exploration of altered states of consciousness. It proposes that the human mind can, in fact, distort reality itself. This doesn't just mean perceiving different dimensions, but being able to actively influence what we see and experience. By accessing these deeper layers of reality, the mind can not only decode invisible patterns of energy, but also, by altering them, change how we interact with the world around us. In this expanded state, the mind ceases to be just a passive observer and becomes an active creator, capable of influencing what it sees. Through this process, the human mind is able to access what the CIA document called layers of reality, states of consciousness, where the boundaries between the self and the universe begin to disappear, allowing the perception of reality to be shaped by consciousness itself. Among the practices studied in the gateway process, one of the most powerful was hemisphere synchronization. This process involved using specific sounds and frequencies to balance and align the functions of the brains to hemispheres. When synchronized, the brain's hemispheres allow for an expanded state of consciousness in which the perception of reality becomes more fluid and malleable. Deep meditation was also an essential technique in this study, allowing participants to access a higher state of consciousness where the mind connected directly with the universe and its infinite possibilities. These seemingly simple practices were designed to alter brain frequencies and enable more direct communication with the energetic reality surrounding us. These CIA studies are fundamental in validating the theory of the universal hologram. If the universe works as a hologram, an energetic, dynamic, interconnected projection, then human consciousness has the power to interact with that hologram. By expanding the mind, we can not only perceive but also modify and distort the projections the universe presents to us. Reality is not a constant but something fluid that can be altered through consciousness itself. This realization makes us see that this declassified CIA document not only reflects ancient beliefs that the mind and the universe are interconnected, but also provides a scientific basis for understanding how this connection works. The practice of expanding consciousness and tuning our minds to universal frequencies allows us to access a reality much richer and more multifaceted than we imagined. As science and spirituality converge, we begin to understand that we are more than simple observers of reality, we are its co-creators. Human perception has always been viewed as passive. Our senses capture reality, and the brain processes this information to create an image of the world around us. However, this understanding has been questioned. Every thought, every emotion is a manifestation of energy, a vibrational pattern that spreads throughout the universe and interacts with the energy waves around us. The concept that reality is a holographic projection gives us a key to understand how our mind works in this process. The universal hologram, as we described earlier, is a dynamic reality formed by energetic patterns. And the human mind doesn't just observe these energies, but also projects them, shaping what we perceive as reality. To understand this more deeply, we need to explore the concept of the hologram and how it applies to the human mind. A hologram, in essence, is a three-dimensional projection that contains all the information of an object or image even when divided into parts. If we consider reality as a hologram, this implies that everything we perceive from the physical world around us to the emotions and thoughts we feel is an energetic projection of patterns interacting in complex ways. In this model, each human being is both a receptor and a projector of these patterns. The human mind, then, is not just a screen on which the images of reality are projected. It is a dynamic tool, an antenna that tunes and projects energy patterns to create the perception of the world. This perception is not a simple copy of what is outside of us, but an active projection shaped by the mental frequencies we emit. The mental frequency, which is determined by our thoughts, emotions, and states of consciousness, interacts directly with the energy field around us, adjusting how we see and experience reality. The relationship between mental frequency and reality perception is crucial. When our mind is aligned with higher frequencies, our perception expands, allowing us to access more subtle and expansive layers of reality. On the other hand, when our frequencies are misaligned, perhaps due to stress, fear, or doubts, our perception tends to narrow, making the world around us seem more limited and challenging. This is not just a matter of how we see things, but of how our mind projects reality, creating what we perceive as real. The scientific explanation behind this idea is supported by recent studies in quantum physics and neuroscience, which show how the human mind is constantly interacting with the quantum field that permeates the universe. Every thought we have generates an energy wave that propagates through the quantum field, influencing what we perceive and even what we experience as our reality. This leads us to believe that the mind is a creative force that shapes, distorts, and redefines reality in real time. This process can be understood through a simple but powerful example. Imagine you are looking at a piece of paper. What you see is not exactly the paper as it is, but rather an interpretation by your mind. The light reflecting off the paper enters your eyes, but it is your brain that creates the image you see of it. In other words, what you perceive of the paper is a projection of your mind, not the paper itself. This means that just as you interpret the paper, your mind is constantly projecting interpretations about everything around you. The simple act of observing anything already involves your mind projecting a version of reality based on your own mental filters, past experiences, and emotional states. And just as a hologram can be manipulated and altered with the simple adjustment of a frequency, our reality can also be consciously shaped depending on the mental frequencies we choose to align with. When we become more aware of our role as projectors of our own reality, we begin to perceive the magnitude of our influence on the world around us. This understanding leads us to true freedom, the freedom to create the reality we wish to live in by simply adjusting the frequency with which we interact with the universe. As we discussed earlier, the human mind, with all its complexity, has the power to transcend the limits of common perception, allowing us to connect with different layers of reality. But to access these layers, it takes more than just a simple attempt to see what is beyond the immediate reach of our senses. It is necessary to adjust the mental frequency, just as a radio tunes to different stations. Simply put, reality, like an interconnected hologram, responds to our consciousness. By altering this consciousness, we can access deeper, broader, and often more mysterious dimensions of perception. The Gateway Process, a declassified CIA document, offers a window to understand how we can expand consciousness in a controlled way. This study revealed that the human mind can be guided into altered states of perception through specific practices, which allow access to realities not easily captured by the common senses. These practices not only expand our perception, but also alter our relationship with time, space, and even the very nature of reality. Among the most powerful techniques described in this study are deep meditation, hemisphere synchronization, and visualization. Deep meditation allows the practitioner to disconnect from external distractions and focus their attention inward, creating a state of calm and openness that facilitates access to higher states of consciousness. When we enter this state, the mind begins to perceive layers of reality that normally remain beyond sensory perception. Hemisphere synchronization is a more advanced technique that seeks to balance the functions of the two brain hemispheres, which in their natural state operate slightly out of coordination. By using specific sounds and frequencies, synchronization allows both hemispheres to work in harmony, creating a mental state where the boundaries between normal perception and subtle realities begin to disappear. This state of mental coherence facilitates connection with higher dimensions of consciousness, allowing the practitioner to access information not immediately available to the logical, analytical mind. Another technique used in this CIA study is visualization. Visualization is a technique where the mind is guided to create vivid images of intentions, desires, or experiences. By doing so, the mind begins to attract and interact with the corresponding energies and realities. Visualization is not just a passive mental process, but an active creation mechanism. For example, athletes often use visualization techniques to mentally rehearse winning a race or perfecting a skill, which studies have shown can improve actual performance. By visualizing something, the mind begins to align its frequency with the energy needed to manifest what has been imagined, thus altering perception and interaction with reality. To understand how these techniques work, it's essential to grasp the concept of altered states of consciousness. When the mind enters deep meditation or high concentration states, it detaches from the limitations of normal sensory perception. The brain enters a higher or lower frequency depending on the technique used, and this allows the practitioner to access other layers of reality. In simple terms, these states allow the mind to see what cannot normally be seen or to perceive what is beyond conventional human vision. This expansion of consciousness not only alters perception, but also opens up new possibilities for interaction with the universe around us. The concept of mental frequency is crucial to understanding how the expansion of consciousness can be applied to access different realities. The frequency of the mind, which can be adjusted through practices like meditation, visualization, and hemisphere synchronization, determines the quality of the reality we experience. For example, when the mind is tuned to lower frequencies, it connects to a denser reality, more related to matter and the perception of space and time. But when the mental frequency is elevated, the mind begins to perceive subtler realities beyond time and space, accessing information and experiences that are not available in ordinary reality. These practices of expanding consciousness offer more than a simple way of seeing reality differently. They allow us to perceive the underlying structure of reality, the energy patterns that form it, and connect us with dimensions of existence that go beyond what we can perceive with our physical senses. When trained and prepared, the human mind is capable of accessing these realities and interacting with them, thus altering its own perception of life and the universe. When we practice focused intention, such as visualizing a goal or firmly believing in something we desire, we are adjusting our mental frequency to attract that reality. The mind, when aligned with this frequency, begins to perceive opportunities, create internal changes, and even generate behaviors that led us to that reality. This is a clear example of how we can consciously and actively distort our perception of reality. And so, the perception of reality stops being a mere reaction to external stimuli and begins to be shaped by our own mind through the conscious control of our internal frequencies. Human consciousness, by understanding and applying this power, becomes capable of creating a world more aligned with its deepest intentions. The true understanding of the universe and the mind reveals that both are deeply intertwined, functioning as a single network of energy and perception. After all, reality is not something fixed and immutable, but a dynamic projection that we can influence. And when we recognize our ability to alter our perception of reality, we embrace the power to live more consciously, transforming our experience of life and our connection with the universe. Thank you for embarking on this journey with me. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to like and subscribe to our channel. Share this video with others so they can benefit from this message. And don't forget to leave a comment below sharing your thoughts, reflections, and experiences. Thanks again for watching and for joining me. Take care and see you soon.